Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so Skip, Shannon, let's get to it.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from LA. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. Good morning, guys. What a game last night. How we doing?
Oh, you waited me out, huh? You waited me out to the very end, you dirty rascal.
Hey, Jenny, you want to come over to my house today? We're having a pool party. I put in a second swimming pool, and it's full of Diet Mountain Dew. I just won 5 more cases.
Yeah,
I'm going to set up a stand out on Pico today and just give away Diet Mountain Dew because I don't know what to do with all of it.
At this point,
I might just start a second Pacific Ocean of Diet Mountain Dew.
You got me.
I don't know.
Before we start, Skip, today is my brother's birthday, so I want to wish you a happy birthday,
Happy.
bro. Let's get to it.
Are we talking about Sterling?
Yeah.
Okay, happy birthday, Sterling.
okay, happy birthday. I'm glad we got that out of the way. It might be the first and last time Shannon is smiling like that. Because Skip, Baylor, Bayless, right? That's what we were saying yesterday.
Yeah.
Baylor got it done. They jumped out to an early lead over Gonzaga last night and never looked back on the way to an 86-70 win. The Bears never trailed once en route to handing the Bulldogs their first loss of the season. Jared Butler, who dropped 22 points in the win, walked away with the most outstanding player honors for Baylor. Wow, Baylor, congratulations. I mean, honestly, but Shannon, what happened to your Zags?
Skip, I'm surprised that Baylor won. I'm shocked at how they won. The speed, the physicality that Gonzaga had never seen anything like this. Skip, if you look at their team, they're built more like football players, not basketball players.
I agree.
Those guys got shoulders. They got up into them. A lot of deflections. They made everything difficult. Everything Gonzaga couldn't do was because of what Baylor did to them. Skip, it was nonstop. They made the three. Skip, the most threes made in the championship game is 12. Baylor had 10 last night. They had 7 at the half. And remember, we talked about it, Skip. Now, you better not let them do what they did to Houston. Remember, they hit 8 threes in the first half against Houston, and they never looked back. And basically, that's what they did to Baylor. They hit them with an avalanche of threes, and they never looked back. That 3-guard offense, they got 3 guys that can take you off the bounce. They got Macy Teague, they got Butler, and they got Davion Mitchell. Skip, what surprised me most was how well they rebounded with 3 guards. But what they did, they kept Timmy in the high pick and roll. And so now we got the mismatch we want. We can dance on him, and if they miss the shot, guess what? You got 6'7", 6'8" guys on your guards trying to keep them off the board. They got 16 offensive rebounds. Well, you're not winning, Skip. You lose the three-point battle. You let the team shoot 17, 18 more shots than you. Even though you shot 50% from the floor, when someone shoots 45% and they shoot 18 more times than you, this is what you're going to get. Gonzaga averages 90 points a game. Baylor held them to 20 under that. That says not only can we get to 80, we can keep you from getting to 80. I'm surprised they won. As I said at the start, Skip, I'm surprised they won. I'm shocked at how easily Baylor made it look. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but they made it look easy. Those guards were relentless. And the Suggs, everything was difficult. Skip, there was really no... Skip, you know how they backdoor you and everything is so efficient? Everything was a tip ball, and they had to dive on the floor. Baylor played well. Baylor deserved to win. I'm not so sure if they play 5 more times, Gonzaga win any of those games. Baylor is just a better team than what Gonzaga is.
So, if it would be 5-0 if they played 5 more times.
Yeah, if they played 5 more times, it would be 5-0.
Then you shouldn't be surprised by what you saw last night.
Well, Skip, I mean, look, I also saw them coming down the stretch. Now, Baylor looked good, Skip. These were the 2 best teams. But then I saw them falter down the stretch, and they were losing games that they shouldn't have lost. But the way they played last night, now, I'm not so sure, Skip, they can play. That was a lot on the line. So I'm not so sure that if you're telling me it's going to be 5 times in each game for a national championship, you might be. But I'm not so sure that Gonzaga can beat them. If they win, they might win a game. If you play 5 times, get the best of 5, they might win a game.
Okay. I was not shocked by what I saw because I saw the same thing happen to a very good, very physical Houston team on Saturday. Baylor put up 45 on Houston in the first half. And I sat back and said, that's no small thing that they just did.
Right.
But the world wasn't watching because the world was captivated by the Zags. Everybody wanted to see perfection.
Undefeated.
Everybody wanted to see undefeated for the first time since 1976. Everybody was on the Zags national Cinderella bandwagon after Jalen Suggs hit a shot that I thought was a lucky shot, but everybody else thought it was the greatest shot they'd ever seen to win the game against UCLA in overtime on Saturday. And the truth was, Gonzaga got exposed last night because Gonzaga just flat out got manhandled, got weight roomed.
Yeah, they did.
Just got bludgeoned from the start by, as you said, stronger, quicker, nastier, tougher, more relentless. I sat back after the first possession of the basketball game, Gonzaga's first offensive possession, and I said, uh-oh. If we could see it real quick, did you see? Baylor gets its hand on that ball, and I was like, oh, that was almost a turnover. And then they turn right around, and they get their hand on the basketball again. There it is again, and it gets tipped up. And I said, these guys are suffocating on defense. This is a rare basketball team that doesn't have a breakout star. No. Nobody knows any of them until last night. That's the first time anybody sort of discovered any of the Baylor players, including Davion Mitchell.
Well, Skip, Davion Mitchell grew up 20 miles from where I grew up.
Oh, he's a Georgia kid.
He's a Georgia kid. He's from Hinesville, Georgia.
Hinesville, Georgia. But so maybe you were starting to key in on him.
My sister told me about him. She went and saw him play because they played at the team that I went to high school at.
Okay.
And they played them.
This is the rare team that enjoys playing defense even more than it enjoys playing offense.
Yes.
And this is the rare basketball team that actually has 4 guards who can take you off the dribble. And I'm talking about taking anybody off the dribble, including Jalen Suggs.
Yes.
So any of those 4 at any given moment can just say, are you guys okay?
Yeah.
I got this one.
I got it.
And they would try to do a high pick and roll, but they wouldn't even try the pick and roll hard because they just say, just get out of my way for a second. Let me take this.
Because, Skip, they put him in the pick and roll, and Timmy, it's like, well, Timmy is too slow to get back.
Yep.
And so they was getting layup or dunks. And now, Skip, even if they shoot the shot, you still got a big down there on Suggs, and you got a big down there on Cook. How they going to get the rebound? So guess what? Vital was relentless.
Well, I told you he's Charles Barkley 2.0.
Yeah, he might need to go football. He might be a tight end.
You called him a guard, and I said, well, he's 6'5", 250, and he was the one, what did he get, 8 offensive rebounds? 8 offensive rebounds.
What? When you said guard, I thought you meant offensive guard, because looking at his build.
Guard, football guard.
Yes.
So they were so relentless, and they so destroyed Gonzaga's psyche and will early that I couldn't believe that Mark Few had to resort to playing zone to try to get back in the game. They don't play zone.
No.
They haven't played zone all year.
No.
And furthermore, the run up and down Zags, they got held to their lowest point total of the year in the national championship game. That is shocking to me. And to me, Drew Timme and Kispert got relegated to looking like two guys in headbands at the Y trying to get in a game, right?
That's what,
They did. They just looked overmatched to me. And Drew Timme's NBA stock was going through the roof, and all of a sudden, it nosedived.
Yes.
Because you could see what was happening. He just got out-physicaled at the point.
And the athleticism, Skip. He doesn't have the athleticism.
No. He's skilled.
Yes.
He's clever. He's creative. We get all that. He's crafty. But in the end, he just got overwhelmed and overpowered. And he scored 12 points, and he actually made 5 of 7 shots, but he couldn't get his shot.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that's a problem. And then Baylor wins the boards 38-22.
That's shocking. With 3 guards.
22 with all those guards. And you made the point yesterday. I don't know. Can they deal with Timme? Yeah, they can deal with Timme. Can they win the boards? Yeah, they crushed him on the board.
Crushed him on the offensive glass.
Just remember, you're looking last night at 5 starters who were 2 seniors and 3 juniors. It's grown men.
Right.
Not that Kispert's a senior, obviously, but this was like grown men.
Yes.
Or as our man Eric Dickerson says, grown-ass men.
Yes.
That's what that came across to as me.
Right.
So what's the takeaway for college basketball this year? I'm not going to go so far as to say Gonzaga was overrated.
No, they're not. They weren't.
But Baylor was way underrated. Right. It was really, from the beginning, a 2-team race.
Yes.
They were supposed to play on December 5th. Right. They could not play.
Right.
Baylor was the one team that got camouflaged the most by COVID because, remember, Baylor in February had to take a 3-week pause in their program. Well, don't forget, they were 17-0 at that point on February 3rd when they finally had to say, we got to stop.
Right. And that might have been a blessing in disguise, Skip, because maybe Gonzaga get a sense of what they are. Because they didn't face each other December 5th. You have no idea what you're up against. Because you watching it on tape, you're like, okay, they look fast. But then in actuality, you get out there, you're like, what? They didn't look this fast.
Just overwhelmed.
Hands everywhere.
Got him in foul trouble.
Yes.
And Jalen Mills got a couple. Jalen Suggs got a couple quick fouls.
Well, he has to understand, Skip. You can't get that second reach in. You can't just let it go, bro.
Not in that game. With those stakes, not against those guys.
Right.
Okay, so here's why I swung and missed on Baylor. I knew of Baylor, and obviously they're playing in a tougher conference than Gonzaga was playing in the West Coast. But when they had to pause for 3 weeks, they came out of it and they had one nice home win against Iowa State, and then they went to Kansas. And I watched a good bit of that game, and I got to tell you, they got taken apart at Kansas. Just took them apart, out-rebounded them, outshot them. And in that game at Kansas, who was ranked 17th at that point, Jared Butler, who just took the game over MOP last night, he was 2 of 9. They shot 38% from the field and 38% from the free throw line. So they had one of those nights at Kansas that you just can't overcome. And they turned it right around. And in the semis of the conference tournament at Kansas City, they ran into Cade Cunningham, who I think will be the first overall pick. We're going to talk more about that versus Jalen Suggs later. But they ran into Cade Cunningham and Oklahoma State, and they got their doors blown off again. And Cade Cunningham went for 25 points and made 4 threes and shot 7 of 8 from the free throw line, had 8 rebounds, and just took them all apart again, and they lost by 9. So they lost 71-58 at Kansas and then by 9. And at that point, I said, they just can't get it back. They lost their way, and they can't find themselves. And so I pretty much forgot about the Baylor Bears. And as Dan Wilkin of USA Today wrote today, they were actually hiding in plain sight. And they were. Again, some people picked them. A lot of people didn't pick them to make it to the Final Four. And all of a sudden, they got hotter and stronger and hotter and stronger. And you ran into a buzzsaw right on time. Okay, so I step back from the Gonzaga season and I say, well, should we remember it fondly or should it have an asterisk at the end of the year? I don't know how you're looking at it, but do you think it was a successful season? Because it's hard for me to go successful when you don't cap it off.
Skip, we talked about this at the beginning. This was an opportunity for someone other than a blue blood to win a national title. The Kentuckys were down. The Kansas were down. The Duke, the North Carolinas, the UCLA made it. But the teams that we really think of a basketball powerhouse. Now, Baylor's done a great job, but Baylor's not a basketball powerhouse. It's not what we think of as a blue blood.
No.
And this was the opportunity. This was Gonzaga's opportunity to cash this in. That's what Baylor did. Baylor, and maybe this is a trend of things to come, and maybe Coach Drew can say, you know what, hey, guys, we can win a national championship here now. You don't have to go to Kansas or Duke or North Carolina to win a championship. We just won it last year. So maybe that opened doors that maybe it was having a hard time getting into. But, Skip, you look at Gonzaga. They beat that Kansas team that beat Baylor by 13. They put 102 points on them.
They did.
They put 99 on Iowa, 98 versus Virginia, 87 versus West Virginia.
Okay, is that a successful season?
No. At the end of the day, Skip, you measure success by wins, and you lost the ultimate game. Skip, I guarantee you they'd rather be 31-1 with the national title as opposed to be 31-1 and you lost in that championship game, because that's what it comes down to. Yes, you had an opportunity to make history, to join some elite company, the great UCLA teams. I think you said that Indiana was the last one to do it. But Skip, nobody remember that Kentucky team with Karl Anthony Towns? UNLV, they was footnote. I mean, they were loaded. They had just beaten Duke last year. Beat them by 30, 103-73. The last time someone scored 100 points in the championship game. But Cats, bro, you got to top this off. It's just like the Patriots, Skip. 18-1, 19-0.
But at least the Patriots had already won, what, a couple of Super Bowls.
They won 3.
3. They'd won 3 going into the Giants Super Bowl. The point for Gonzaga is, I know these are supposed to be just kids, just student athletes, but Shannon, in the end, they just didn't put the exclamation point on it because they were very fortunate to survive a classic March Magic team in UCLA, who's just on that Cinderella roll. Mm-hmm. And again, we argue back and forth, but I still think that Jalen Suggs made it was a miraculously lucky shot.
Well, he didn't make enough of those last night.
He didn't.
Nobody did.
The point about him was he actually had his best game of the NCAA tournament, or they would have gotten shellacked worse than this.
But see, Skip, it's hard for me to look at it like that because they're down by so much. Those points were meaningless.
Well, he scored 15 of his 22 in the second half, or they would have just gotten annihilated.
Skip, when they had an opportunity, okay, they were down really big in the first half. They cut it to 10. I'm like, okay, that's all you could really hope for. Yeah, 8 single digits would have been nice, but you got it manageable.
Yep.
Skip, Baylor comes right out the box, boom, 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 and next thing you know, it's 15-16. Well, it's over. They cut it back to 9, and then Baylor turns up the heat again, and defense, and they never look back. I mean, I really never got the sense that even once they got it to 9, I was like, can they? I really never got the sense it was going to get any lower than 9, Skip.
Well, this all in spite of the fact I told you Matthew Meyer comes off the bench as their most exciting sort of microwave scorer.
Right.
Speaking of the great Vinnie Johnson, who once played at Baylor back in 1979, somewhere he was smiling last night.
Yep.
But the point is, Matthew Meyer had a bad game. He only made 1 shot.
Yep.
He scored 2 points. So that's how loaded they are. That's how deep they are. And did Gonzaga look like UCLA had taken too much out of them? Probably.
Well, Skip, I just think the thing is Baylor was too fast and too physical for them. They don't run into teams like Baylor that's built like that plays like that really wants to push the tempo as you do. But in the process of them pushing the tempo, they're forcing you to turn it over. Skip, it got to the point that like 3 straight 4 possessions, they turned the ball over. They couldn't even get a shot up at the rim. I mean, you shoot 50%, but you take 17 fewer shots. You're going to lose. And at one point, Skip, they were 10 or 18 from the 3. Baylor missed their last 5 threes. Flagler comes in. He's big. They go to the zone, and they're letting their shooters get into the middle of the defense. They let T get right to the middle. They let Hunt you.
Anybody who wanted to get in the lane just got in the lane.
No, you can't do that.
Then you're done.
Right, because Skip, they're not used to playing a zone. Now, Syracuse plays zone strictly. They understand the nuances of it. But when you have a team that plays man-to-man and they're not used to playing man-to-man and they're trying to play a zone because they can't stay in front of anybody, well, on the fly? How many times you see somebody change your complete scheme on the fly and have success?
Yeah. So we have seen maybe not the end of the one-and-done era. It's not done yet because obviously if a LeBron or Kobe or somebody comes along, well obviously they could take over college basketball. But right now we don't have that one difference maker out there who made it a one-and-done kind of year. Kentucky didn't have that player. Duke didn't have that player.
Carolina,
Kansas, they didn't have that player. So all of a sudden, Scott Drew said, well, college basketball is a guards game. It always has been.
Yes.
You win with your guards. Yes. And so he stocks up on guards. For a while, remember, he started in 2003 trying to pull them up out of their scandal that they were in the Dave Bliss years. I knew Dave very well when he was the coach at SMU. But the point was that he tried long and tall for a long time, and it didn't work.
No.
And he tried to go for the one-and-dones, and that didn't work. And so he said, I'm going to go for the transfers and try to do it with juniors and seniors. And they are loaded with experienced, grown men.
Right.
And so he did it with guard play more than long, tall play.
Right.
And that's how you win. In this era, that's how you win.
Because it's so hard, Skip, unless you got a Kareem, unless you got one of these transcendent centers, it's just hard. Because like you said, you got to get him the ball. And that's why we, a lot of times, Skip, we devalue bigs in the NBA. Because the guard got to get you the ball. Somebody has to get you the ball. Well, the guard, I got the ball. I don't need nobody to give me the ball. I can just go get it and do my own thing. And they got 3 guys that can take you off the bounce, can get to the rim at will. So guess what? You come to help, they dish it off, guy getting a dunk or a layup. I mean, the talent level, you saw the difference between the talent level between the 2 teams, the athleticism between the 2 teams, Skip. It's night and day what Baylor looked like as opposed to Gonzaga.
Yeah, as Scott Drew summed up late last night, he said, a lot of times when you win a Final Four, you need some luck. And he said, we didn't need any luck.
Right. No.
Well, that pretty much sums it up. They didn't need any luck, man. This was start to finish They were just way better than Gonzaga. So it was a two-team race for the championship.
Yes.
Except one team was so underrated that it was way better than the other best team.
Right.
Right?
And they spent a lot of emotional capital on Saturday, Gonzaga did. You love to have saved that shot for this game, Skip. But you never, when you need it, you need it. But you got to give Baylor the credit, though.
Yeah, I do. But if Johnny Juzang had hit a shot at the end of regulation to win that game for UCLA, I think UCLA, just on emotional roll, I think they could have given Baylor a little better game last night.
You might be right, Skip. Unfortunately, we'll never know because they got two guys that can take you off the bounce. They got Juzang and they got Jaquez. So those two guys can take you off the bounce. They really, Gonzaga. And
Tiger Campbell is a sensational, explosive, smaller athlete.
When you really look at it, is anybody from Gonzaga able, other than Suggs, that's able to just like do whatever they want, whenever they want? They got two guys from UCLA, and they're 6'8". There's a big difference between a guy that's, what makes Kevin Durant so unique is that he can take you off the bounce at 7 foot. Yeah. That's a lot different than a guy 6'1" trying to take you off the bounce.
Yeah. I just think the UCLA kid, Riley, he's bigger, stronger, and would fight inside. Right. I don't think he would have gotten crushed on the boards.
Yeah, you can't give up 16 offensive rebounds in a college game. That was
something.
So you hold him, Skip. You try to make a run. You get the stop, but a lot of times they don't realize defense doesn't end until you get the rebound. So you can force a miss, but if you don't get the rebound, what have you done? Nothing, because they're going to get another crack, and they got another crack, and they got another crack at it.
Yep.
Kudos,
congratulations, Baylor.
No mercy. Well, it appears the Jets will indeed be drafting a quarterback with the second overall pick, like most experts projected. Yesterday, they finally traded away former number 3 overall pick Sam Darnold to the Panthers. And in return, New York received a 6th-round pick this year and a 2nd and 4th next year. So, Shannon, was this a good move or bad move by Carolina? What do you think of it?
I like it for Carolina, Skip, because just 3 years ago, the guy was the 3rd pick in the draft, and you only had to give up a 6th rounder this year and a 2 and a 4 next year. I think that's I thought that was a great move for the Carolina Panthers. Skip, but I know everybody's just beating up on Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold has never had an offensive player make a Pro Bowl in his 3 years. And he's 12 games under 500 as a starter. He's 13-25. But you know what the Jets' records are without him? 0-10. So now he leaves that situation and he has DJ Moore, Robert Anderson, who he had in New York, that they let him go to Carolina, who had a phenomenal year. And he has Christian McCaffrey in his backfield. Look at the coaching staff. Matt Rule, Joe Brady versus Adam Gase. Now remember, Adam Gase had you fools thinking Ryan Tannehill was terrible. And look what he's done in Tennessee. So for me, Skip, I think it's a new opportunity. And he was so happy. Jim, let's roll the tape. Skip, I don't know if you saw this, Skip. You didn't see what he was so happy. Look at this. A surprise get up out of New York party. Raise the roof. Get up.
Well, those people don't look all that happy.
He happy.
Raise the roof.
They're the people. He happy.
It looks a little blasé.
Look at the roof.
He got big. They don't talk about Sam. Look at that. Yes. Yes, plus we got restrictions, so we couldn't jam pack it. We couldn't put everybody up in that thing. But we got a few people that we feel comfortable with.
Is that the best video you could find?
I mean, you got to realize that it's not like he's going to. He's not like he's going to the Steelers or one of these prime. Okay. He's going to Carolina, okay? But he's up out of New York in that situation. Skip, look, the really great quarterbacks can overcome situations. I'm not saying Sam Darnold is like that. You've seen Brady and you've seen these other quarterbacks that even when they don't have the great talent around them, he's a guy, Skip, that he needs talent around him so he can play to that talent. But I believe going to Carolina where he has more talent than what they had in New York, I believe you'll see a better Sam Darnold. I'm not saying he's going to be historically great, but I definitely believe you will see a better Sam Darnold than what you saw at the New York Jets. And that's what Carolina's telling you know what? We believe we bumping our head on the ceiling with Teddy Bridgewater. So when you make this move, Skip, it's telling you, Teddy, we think this kid is better than you.
So, Shannon Sharpe.
Yep.
I'm going to repeat to you what I said before Sam Darnold was drafted with the 3rd overall pick. I will never be sold on him as a franchise quarterback. I watched him a lot at USC. It was troubling how many mistakes he made in key situations. I think he's a great young man. I think he's a try-hard quarterback who tries too hard, too often to make the play, to win the game. And if you look at his results, I give you all the backdrop in New York with the Jets. It was miserable, but he couldn't lift it up.
Right, yeah.
To me, he doesn't have a great feel for playing the position of quarterback. There's too much Carson Wentz going on. There's too much happy feet. There's too much lost poise. There's no command of the position.
You see that offensive line he had?
Okay.
I'd have threw the ball up in there and ran the other way. The hell with this. Y'all getting me killed anyway.
Okay, so I'm going to go on record. I think history will show that Teddy Bridgewater is a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. That's what I believe. And I know Carolina was desperate, and my biggest takeaway from this is Carolina was supposed to be the top suitor for Deshaun Watson.
Right.
And they hung in as the civil suits rose and rose, and now they're all the way up to 22. And I think Friday another woman went to the police and filed a complaint against Deshaun Watson in Houston. So it's up to, you could say, 23 cases. And I guess Carolina finally said,
nah, we didn't give up too much. We still got our first round pick. We still got our first and second round. We still got our first this year and next year.
Yep.
So if Deshaun becomes available, guess what?
Well, maybe. I just saw a mock draft that just was put out by Mike Tannenbaum of the ESPN, obviously the former GM of the
Jets and
Dolphins. And he still has Carolina taking Justin Fields at number 8 overall. And he's just saying, don't rule them out of the quarterback market. And they've been saying we're not out of the quarterback draft market just yet.
Wow.
Well, I don't really know where that would get them.
Skip, he does understand this is not college. You just can't stockpile one position because it costs you money. Like Alabama stockpiles at running back. They stockpile at wide receiver. Well, it doesn't cost them anything. You can't have quarterbacks making this kind of money on your roster.
Okay. So the saddest part about this for the Jets is now they're at least penciled in at number 2 to take Zach Wilson. I don't know. Will they talk themselves into another quarterback, Mac Jones or Trey Lance?
Or Trevor Field. Justin Fields.
Yeah. Who knows which way that organization might go with that spot?
Yeah, considering.
But I just read this fact on ESPN that if the Jets do select a quarterback number 2 overall, they would become the first team in the common draft era since 1967 to select 2 quarterbacks within the top 3 overall picks in a 4-year span. That's just horrendously bad. That
explains it.
That is franchise crushing.
Yes.
You can't do it. You will not survive that way.
No.
You better be right about this one.
Skip, you remember, I can't forget his name, at Detroit. 3 years in a row, he selected wide receivers.
Yep.
3 years in a row. I can't his name right.
Matt Millen?
Matt Millen. Right. Skip, wait. You go Charlie Rogers, you go Williams, and then you go Megatron. What the hell you think gonna happen? And it's 16, shortly thereafter, and they marched him right on up out of there. Well, Joe Douglas, I think that's his name, Skip. He about to get marched right on up out of there. He better hope whomever he selects at number 2, that guy better come out and have a Justin Herbert type season.
Yep.
Because if he don't, he gone.
Remember, the sad footnote to Sam Darnold as a Jet was that he somehow rose up and won 2 of his last 3 games, and it took them out of the Trevor Lawrence number 1 spot. Yep. So they lost the Trevor Lawrence Derby because remember, they went to the Rams and won 23-20. Then they went home and beat the Browns, who were injury ravaged at that point. They beat them 23-11. It was just like a...
They supposed to beat the Raiders until what you call that ball blitz on the last play of the game.
I know, they had it. And Sam Darnold didn't play great in those 2 games, but he was the winning quarterback. But he also had the worst QBR over the last 3 years in the National Football League. And that tells you something. Again, I give you no help. I give you chaos around him. But I think that if they go forward with Sam Darnold, they will forever be frustrated and be thinking about who's got next in Carolina. That's just me.
Obviously, he goes to a division that has Tom Brady, has Matt Ryan. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be at New Orleans. What do you think? What's the best record that you think Carolina can have with Sam Darnold starting at quarterback?
If he starts all 16?
If he starts all 16.
what are we up to? 17 games?
My bad, all 17.
Yeah, I got to readjust.
We do, Skip. You can't be no more 8-8.
I know.
Jason Garrett, you can't. I don't know if Jason could be a head coach in the most game. You can't be 8-8.
With Sam Darnold reunited with Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, who I love. And if McCaffrey's back healthy and can stay healthy for 16, you need all that.
With Matt Rule and Joe Brady.
I would give them 6 wins in that division.
6-11, that's it?
6-11. Yep.
No, they better than that.
No.
They're better than that.
You still believe in Sam Darnold?
They're going to be better than that.
I'm sorry.
More talent around us. Be better than that.
And the new guy who's running the Panthers, Scott Fitterer, he loved Sam Darnold before he came out. A lot of people loved him.
Yeah.
And remember the rainy pro day at USC? It was raining cats and dogs and not a ball touched the ground.
Well,
and they gave him a standing ovation.
Well, they better pray that they get rain every Sunday so he can throw it like that again.
I just don't see it. And I think that Carolina just readjusted its sights from Deshaun Watson to Sam Darnold. That's like going from plan A to plan
F.
Probably F. I was going to go maybe
good.
G.
That's good. That's way. Deshaun Watson is way up there, and Sam Darnold is way down here. That's not even close. They light years apart.
Yep. And I'm not even sold on Justin Fields. And I would get it if they took him there because they're just desperate for something. You know, somebody's got to hit for them.
But Skip, if you really think about it, look at the quarterbacks that came out in that draft. The 2 best quarterbacks, I believe Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are the 2 best quarterbacks. One went, 5th or 7th overall? The other went 32nd after Ozzie traded back in the first round to grab him at the 32nd pick.
Baker is figuring it out.
So you think when it's all said and done, he's going to be the best quarterback in this draft?
You know, it's hard to argue with Lamar after he won an MVP. Is Baker ever going to win an MVP? I don't know, maybe.
And been to the playoffs every year he's been in the league.
Yeah.
Josh Allen seems only getting better.
I still would take Baker over Josh Allen. I would, you wouldn't. No. I get that. But I just like whatever chutzpah is in Baker. I like his spark, his spirit, his ability to lead a football team. And now I'm starting to like his maturity. He's starting to live up to all those commercials.
Good. Odell going to be up out of there. Odell finna go win somewhere, win him a ring.
Okay.
Let him go to Green Bay or somewhere and get him a championship.
Good.
Say, I told you so.
He can go with the new Alex Trebek up in Green Bay.
Right? Green Bay? Did you just throw that in there? I'm very curious how you guys both feel about this because I know both of you do watch Jeopardy. So Aaron Rodgers, he had his first episode as the guest host of Jeopardy. Well, it aired last night, and it definitely had its moments. Rodgers handled his duties without a hitch and even had a little subtle there, Larry David impression along the way. The most viral moment, however, was during Final Jeopardy when one of the contestants brought up a painful memory for Rodgers from last season's NFC Championship. Please check it out for yourself.
Scott, did you come up with the correct response? Who wanted to kick that field goal? That is a great question. Should be correct, but unfortunately for this game today, that's incorrect.
Just love it so much. Shannon, give Rodgers a letter grade for his Jeopardy duty.
Skip, I'm going to give him an A because I know the effort and time that he put into it.
Give him an A?
I'm going to give him an A, Skip. Skip, if you notice, he has the right mix of personality. Because, you know, Alex Trebek, with every once in a while, you come up with an answer. He's like, oh, okay. I really never thought of it like that. And so he would have that nice, you know, not to make you feel totally bad, but, you know, that was wrong. But I just like the way Aaron Rodgers handled himself. You can see, after watching him do this, you could actually see him doing this for a very long time, Skip. And he mentioned that, hey, you know, it's not out of the possibility. They tape 46 days. They tape 5 shows a day, 46 days a year. And they normally tape like a week or two, because if I'm not mistaken, Skip, I ended up doing it like, I think a week or 2 weeks after the Super Bowl. So 46 days, ain't nothing going on. That's basically even before free agency hits. So Aaron Rodgers could take that, get that money, and go get some of that. Well, we're going to lead the Packers because they doing us wrong. They talking all crazy. So we're gonna lead them. But I don't know if he wants to, you know, because everybody's going to say, well, that's why Aaron Rodgers not having success because his mind is somewhere else. I ain't talking about everybody. I'm talking about you. That's what you going to say. You're waiting on him to take this job so you can say, see, I always knew he was never as devoted as he should have been. But back to the topic at hand, I thought Aaron Rodgers did a great job. He handled it really well. And of the guys that I've seen do it, he's the best I've seen thus far.
I am shocked. I can't keep up with your A's and F's. I just can't anticipate. Yeah. It's either an A or an F, and I'm shocked either way.
But Skip, you got to understand, doing this, that's a lot different than playing quarterback because he's played quarterback his whole life. But to get on that, hey, there have been a lot of great players, Skip, that tried to get on TV. And all you doing is just talking. You do that every single day. But when that red dot come on, he got to be the host of a show. You got to keep it flowing.
Got it.
A+. Now that you done made me mad, try to...
A+?
Yep, A+.
Okay, so this is my favorite show, and I must admit, I had high hopes. You can ask my wife. We watch all 5 every Friday night in a row, so we don't have to go right through the commercials, right? And I told her, I think he's going to do very well. And she was doubtful about it. And I said, you didn't read the stories about how he said he spent hours and hours and hours watching old Jeopardies back 20 years ago, just so he could get every response Alex used going to break, coming out of break, to wrong answers, to right answers. So he had it down cold, and he did have all the ins and outs down cold.
He did.
He said he spent hours and hours and hours taking notes.
And you can tell.
And studying his notes. And I told you yesterday, I believe he studied for this in ways he's never studied for a big playoff football game. This is his passion. This is his favorite show. And so I expected fireworks. I thought he would knock me out of my seat. I was having a little hard time watching it because I had to watch it up against the basketball game, but it was virtually over by then anyway. But the point is, I am going to give him a C for his performance last night because he was surprisingly blah. He was surprisingly blasé to me.
We should be.
He was too cool for me.
I like that. You see that? Yeah, that ain't cool. We cool like that.
But when you're too cool, TV is about energy. You know it, and I know it, and this show knows it's about energy.
Yes.
It's bringing it every second of every show. He did not bring it for me. I thought the show lost momentum because he was just too cool for the school of Jeopardy. You need to show a little bit of passion and emotion. It needs to start to spill out of you to fuel the show.
Skip, it's Jeopardy, not The Price is Right, Let's Make a Deal.
I know that, but Alex had energy to him. You could just feel how excited he was to see who's going to win this game. You know, he or she did great yesterday. You two, you're up against it. Let's see what you got. That would be the message to open every show. I didn't feel that from him, and I'm holding to the highest standards because he said he prepped so hard for it. And again, they do have some rehearsal shows that they did, so it's not like they just throw you into the water cold, right?
They let you test, and you get a feel of the buzzer and all that.
But for him hosting, he got to do some dry runs, and he said he was completely prepared. In fact, he came across as a little overconfident in it because the one missing component was a little more of him, a little more personality.
That's gonna come, Skip.
Okay, and again, maybe I'm being unfair because it was his first time out, maiden voyage in this, and it's choppy waters because it's coming at you so fast. You got to think fast. You got to think response. You got to react, and I get all that. But now let's get to Final Jeopardy and his response. And he did admit in interviews, which I did not know, that when the 3 contestants are writing their answers, I did not know the host can see what they're writing. But he said, I saw what he was writing. He talked about it in interviews last week. This is going to be the viral moment. This is going to be what people remember. Aaron, it's not about you, and it's not about the Green Bay Packers. You need to let all that go and try to be the new Alex. Right? But Alex never made it about Alex.
But Skip, Alex never, it was not, he's a huge sports fan. He loves football, obviously being from Canada. He loves hockey. But Skip, in this moment, the guy writes down who decided to kick that field goal.
Who wanted to kick the field goal?
Skip, you know that was going to be a viral moment with Aaron Rodgers. It's like if it was a basketball player, who decided that such and such was going to take that shot?
Here's my problem with that question to him, and I didn't love his answer because Aaron's response, because Well, it was obvious who wanted to kick the field. The head coach wanted to kick the field goal because Aaron had just thrown 3 straight incompletions. And he said, "I give up.
But
we kick."
But see, that's what Aaron. But
Okay,
see, Aaron didn't want to say that. Aaron's like, "Look,
there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Basically, he said it wasn't my decision. So if it wasn't my decision, there's only one other decision it could be.
Okay, well, isn't that the biggest duh ever? Was there any doubt about that?
Wanna, you know.
The young head coach said, "I've seen enough. 3 straight incompletes that were not even close."
Well, now we got a viral moment, and you're a part of it on Jeopardy
Viral
history.
moment?
Yep.
Well,
I tell you what, I would love to see somebody else do that. I would love to see somebody else host Jeopardy. Let's see what he looks like. Now, you want to talk about blah. You want to talk about Lily White and duh.
okay, like Dr. Oz. I watched all of his shows. He's got some energy to him. It had some... It had impact.
But
he was pushing the pace.
But Skip, Dr. Oz has a talk show.
He does.
So he understands how you got to rise.
He does.
Yes. But in this situation, he's only going to get better. But I love the mannerisms. I love the matter of factness. Like you said, he can't be all, too much because they're like, can't make it about him. It's going to be just fine.
Okay.
It's good.
So now back to the interview that he gave before. It was from last week, but he was talking about how he could do this job and play football. Yesterday, we were discussing either or.
Right.
And when I read this yesterday afternoon, I was like, what? He would try to do both?
Yeah, because I think it was on the Pat McAfee show when he said, he's like, would you give up your job? He said, I wouldn't have to. They take 46 days out of the year.
I think this was an interview with The Ringer. But whatever. The point is, he says, I worked 187 days this year in Green Bay. Well, what do you do, punch in a clock? Tom Brady would never say, I worked 187 days. He works every day.
But he knows how many days he worked.
Okay.
He knows how many hours, down to the hour, down to the minute, to the second.
I don't
right,
think
Skip?
he does.
Yes, he
I
does.
don't think he does.
How many of them avocado shakes?
Okay, but it's just a blur because every day is committed to trying to win next year's Super Bowl.
Right.
But Aaron is to the point in his career, he's clocking in and out. I worked 187 days. And by the way, you can do Jeopardy in 46 total days, 5 shows.
5 shows a day.
5 shows a day. That's a lot of shows in a day. I got to tell you, that would be hard.
It is. It's a lot of shows. Because I was in the first group. My episode was the first one. We were the first one to tape that morning.
First one to shoot on one day.
And one day, right.
Okay. What time was that?
We got in there, we had a rehearsal, so they let you test it, things out. But what people don't understand, Skip, you can't buzz in until, if you try to buzz in before he's done reading, you locked out.
You're out.
So that's the biggest thing, because you sitting at home, you just blurt out the answer. But, I was like, oh.
Agreed.
And then somebody buzzed in like, I know it, I hope they miss it. And then you buzz in. But I think we started about 9:30, 10 o'clock. Maybe a little earlier. I don't remember. That was in 99, so that's so long ago.
So Aaron's already done the math. That gives him 178 off days from Green Bay to work in 46 to be the new host, the new Trebek of Jeopardy.
Yeah.
And he says, I could do that. Trust me, those people who run the Packers, starting with the head coach going upstairs, they do not want to hear any of this.
Well, I didn't want to hear you take a quarterback.
Okay.
I did not want to hear Commissioner Goodell go to the podium and say, with Green Bay Packers are in the 26th spot, and with the 26th pick, the Green Bay Packers select. He didn't want to hear that. So guess what? You're going to hear a lot of stuff over the next year that you don't want to hear until you do right by me.
Well, maybe he's just trying to play chicken with his organization right now by saying, hey, I think I'm going to be the new host of
Well, you know what? If I'm them, Skip, I'm tired of him. I'm tired of him threatening me. And he being passive-aggressive. I'm going to trade his butt.
Okay.
Why don't they do that?
It would be interesting to see if he could go Tom Brady somewhere else, because I don't think he has it in him.
I think he got it in
to
him.
be reinvigorated somewhere else, to lift a whole franchise, especially one like the Succaneers, who were 7-9 the year before.
Hold on, I'm trying to think. Who has comparable talent that's just a quarterback away?
Ooh.
I was going to say your Cowboys, because even you wanted him. So let me ask you a question. If the Cowboys didn't have Dak and Aaron Rodgers went to Dallas, with that talent, what you think he could do?
He wouldn't be committed.
What you mean? What minute?
They might get to the playoffs and lose a playoff game.
No, sir.
He always loses playoff
With that talent?
Well, Well, we're going to talk about all that quote-unquote talent,
So
right?
that's what you tell me. You tell me all the time, oh, we loaded.
Okay.
We loaded.
Okay, well, what if he had gone to Carolina right now? That would be the equivalent of, in that same division, Tampa the year before.
No, sir.
What if he went to Carolina?
No, sir.
Would he change life in Carolina?
Sir.
No, sir, he would not.
No, first of all, that talent level, that defense is not even comparable. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and those guys, that offensive line is not comparable. The only thing that you got in Carolina that's better than in Tampa is the running back, Christian McCaffrey. That's it. The tight ends weren't better. Braden O.J. Howard was better than what they had there. You know that, I know that. The offensive line is better. You know that, I know that. The defense is not even close. Skip, they had like 12 sacks the entire season.
7 and 9.
Let this sink in, Skip. They had 12 sacks. Your middle linebacker had 8 by himself.
Well, you didn't like him going into last year.
Skip, I know they were talented. Did I think they'd win the Super Bowl? Absolutely not. I thought they were at least a year away. They're ahead of schedule. So, but don't pretend like Tampa didn't have no talent now. Don't do that.
Well, I'm also not going to pretend about this. Aaron Rodgers loves Jeopardy more than he loves football. That's what I believe. That's my takeaway. In the end, he would much rather do this job than win a Super Bowl for the Packers because that's harder. He would think that's harder than this.
No.
That's not his passion, late in his career passion.
The Packers love Jordan Love more than they love Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I don't know about that because I don't know anything about Jordan Love. I can't hear anything out of there.
Well, considering that they drafted him, they moved up to select him, they must love him a lot.
In fact, I asked my friend Lil Wayne last night, who's close to a bunch of the Packers, do you hear anything about Jordan Love? And he said, they don't know anything about Jordan Love.
No.
You know, we haven't seen him. Obviously, there are no preseason games last year.
Well, they told me everything I need to know.
Yep.
Everything I need to know, Skip Bayless.
Which is?
They like Jordan Love.
Well, they drafted him. That's all I know.
I mean, you draft players you don't like? You move up to draft players you don't like?
Well,
Aaron did great. Gonna do even better tonight. But I know he do better than somebody else. I want somebody, Aaron Rodgers go on Saturday Night Live. Could your guy go on Saturday Night Live and do that? Like Peyton Manning?
He's done that before.
And think about it. Now, you talk about stiff. I've seen fence posters move more and be more nimble than that joker there.
Well, that fence post has 7 Super Bowl rings.
Yeah.
But,
A lot of rings. I mean, it was just his debut. Let's give him. He was probably a little
Skip,
nervous.
he's a hater. You know Skip, he hating.
I'm from Minnesota, and I'm even saying I liked watching
I
Aaron
don't think
Rodgers.
he's got it in him.
But sometimes when you have a hobby, it
have a
motivates
spark.
you for your other job. You know, he was on a Instagram Live with his new fiancée, Shailene Woodley, last night. And let me tell you, Aaron Rodgers looked happier than he's ever been. Talking about Jeopardy, talking about his excitement. So maybe this will actually help him in football as well. Something to
Well, I talk about this more than I talk about football. You don't say nothing about that.
I saw him at Disneyland with Shailene the other day, right?
You a hater.
That's what he's doing.
guy.
You a hater. You ought to stop this.
Come
You ought to
on.
stop this insanity.
We're moving on. No mercy. So Jalen Suggs tied for a game-high 22 points in Gonzaga's 16-point loss to Baylor last night. While it wasn't the result Suggs had hoped for after hitting the buzzer beater against UCLA, the guard still shot 40% from 3 in the 2 final 4 games and is projected to be a lottery pick. So Shannon, how good will Jalen Suggs be in the NBA, in your opinion?
Skip, it's really hard to evaluate him because a lot of those points came up in mop-up time. And when it really mattered the most, I didn't see what I needed to see. When you talk about lottery, and a lot of people have him going in the top 3, you're talking about all-star, all-NBA type caliber player. I don't know if he's that. Do I look at him and I think Ja might be 2 years older when he came out than what this kid is? But I don't see Ja Morant. You saw Ja Morant in college. You say, okay, that guy can play. Oh, that guy's gonna be special at the next level.
But he is a point guard.
Right. I mean, that's what Suggs is, isn't it?
It's like a combo guard. He's got some points.
Well, he better be a point because if he combo guard, that means he needs to be Dame or Harden or Kyrie or Russ or Gilgeous-Alexander or Donovan Mitchell. You see any of that? I don't, Skip. Now, I'm not saying that, because there are a lot of players, it's like I said, the college game is so different because, Skip, they double team and they do all that stuff. And so it's really hard to project because I didn't project Anthony Davis looking like this when I saw him at Kentucky. And there are a lot of guys that you see in college, you're like, okay, he going to be okay. But go to a I'm sure nobody thought James Harden was going to be this.
No. Or Russell Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook. You saw Russell have the explosiveness, but he's going to average another triple-double again for a season, Skip. So with that, Skip, Can he be a top 10 guard? Steph, Dame, Harden, no particular order. Steph, Dame, Harden, Kyrie, Ja, Russ, Shai Gilgeous, Mitchell. Is he better than Lonzo?
No, he's not.
It's just hard. I'm sure he's gonna be, but I don't see all NBA. I don't see all-star. Now maybe 5 years projecting down the road, 5 years from now, maybe Skip. But I watched him and I don't see it.
Yep. I don't either. But I will say this. That young man's got some guts in him.
Yes.
He's got some spirit, some fight. I liked how he fought back last night because he would not stop.
Right.
He would not take no for an answer. He kept fighting. He scored 15 in the second half, and he kept beating his chest, and I like that.
Right.
He's got an it quality to him that I do like, that I would want on my basketball team. I just don't know if I want it with the third overall pick or the second overall pick or whatever you want.
First overall pick or the top 5
I
pick.
just don't.
Right.
Okay, so I have to compare him to what I saw from Cade Cunningham, and I watched him a lot at Oklahoma State. Cade Cunningham is just much better than Jalen Suggs is. He's 6'8", 220. He's got lots more game to him, lots more range. Cade Cunningham made 40% of his threes this year, and it's the college threes. Sometimes it doesn't quite translate, but I think it will. He also made 85% of his free throws, did Cade Cunningham. And he averaged 20 and 6 rebounds and 4 assists, and he can distribute it a little bit too. So he can play combo too, but he's more of that too. And I just think he'll go #1 overall. And I'm not saying he's going to change life, but he's better than Jalen Suggs.
Right.
We saw Evan Mobley have one big game to shine in against Drew Timme, and he couldn't do it. But he is long and gifted.
He's 7 foot.
Yeah, he's 7 feet tall, and he's got really sweet moves to him. He's got real effortless.
Skip, you can't teach that.
No.
I can teach you how to dribble. I can teach you how to shoot, make your free throws. I can't teach you how to be 7 foot. Either you're born that or you're not.
And he's no stiff either.
Right.
He can play.
Yeah.
And he's just a baby. So would I take him second up? Yeah, I would. So I heard some comparisons of Jalen Suggs to Dwayne Wade when he was at Marquette. Well, I get it in spirit, in fight, and all that. But listen, Dwayne Wade, he was explosive, an explosive scorer in college.
Yes.
And he had a knee injury that slowed down his college because he stayed 2 years at Marquette.
Right.
But, and again, nobody saw this coming for Dwayne Wade.
Right.
But I'm not seeing that Jalen Suggs is Dwayne Wade in overall offensive explosiveness.
Yeah, I think D. Wade might have averaged 30 points a season in the NBA.
Okay. So for me, Jalen Suggs is closer to Josh Hart. And that's not a knock, but think about what Josh Hart did for the Lakers, does for the Pelicans. He plays like this kid does, right?
Does a little bit of everything.
Everything. And he gets up in you on defense, and he just plays his tail off. Well, Josh Hart played 4 years at Villanova, so he stayed the whole way and averaged 13 and 6. And then he was the 30th overall. So he's the last pick in the first round, and he's had a decent career.
Yeah.
Just a decent career. I think Jalen Suggs is a little better than that, but not a whole lot much better.
Right.
So I'm not seeing transcendent player.
You don't see franchise-altering player.
I just don't. I mentioned Vinnie Johnson. I know a lot of kids watching have no idea who Vinnie was, but he was the greatest player to ever play at Baylor.
Right.
In 1979, I was working in Dallas. I drove down to Waco just to check him out, to sit with him. I wrote a big piece about him because he was something. He averaged 24 a game at Baylor, and you could just see he was an explosive scorer.
Right. Yep.
In college, he was an explosive scorer who could just do everything with the basketball.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not seeing that from Jalen Suggs. I know it was a great ride they were on. It was it had a Cinderella feel. As Colin said yesterday on his show, it's like the David who had become Goliath.
Right.
Well, he was the leader of that team, and he was the one and done on that team in an era that we talked about earlier in the show. The one and dones are done. We don't see that. But I assume he's going to be a one and done. But I thought before I went to sleep last night, I started thinking he's just the kind of kid who might say, you know what, we didn't finish it. We didn't close the deal this year. I would not be shocked if he said, I'm coming back.
Nah, Skip, because I don't think his draft stock, do you believe his draft stock is going to get any higher?
Probably not, but again, he seems to be cut from a different cloth. And as you pointed out, he was a football star in high school.
Right.
He was just as good as a quarterback as he was as a basketball player, but he chose basketball.
Right.
And I just don't know. He seems so different that he might just say, you know what? I got to go back one more time.
Yeah.
You've seen this happen before.
Yeah, of course. But I just, look, I thought he played well, but when you're talking about a top 3 pick, Skip, you have to understand what the expectations are when you're a top 3 pick. I'm talking about in any sport, Skip. It doesn't matter. Baseball, basketball, football. When you're selected that high, you're supposed to be organizational changing.
Okay.
That's what they expect of you. Michael Jordan was that. You look at those guys at LeBron James and Melo and D. Wade.
Yep.
They're life-altering. Kyrie, when I saw Kyrie at Duke, you could tell he was special. Even amongst all the other 5-star recruits, you looked at that guy and said, he's still the best player, even though they got 6, 7 other 5-star guys. That's the best player. The way he could handle the ball, the way he could get to the rim, you knew Kyrie was special.
Hey, last night, I had on the Nets-Knicks game, and I'd watched it up to the start of the championship game, and then it kind of bled over, and I had it on the other TV.
Right.
And I'm going back and forth. Kyrie's on his way to scoring 40. It was unbelievable, the performance he put on. Not only is he Uncle Drew, but he plays so strong and physical. Nobody could keep him from the rim.
No.
And I'm looking at that versus what I see on the floor over here, and it is day and night.
Right.
Like it's just not even close.
Right.
And then now we got Davion Mitchell. Let's go to the Baylor Bears. He's somewhere in that 10 to 12 range in the draft, if in fact he could go back for another year too. But I'm pretty sure he'll probably come out after junior year. Hinesville, Georgia, as you say, the defensive player of the year in college basketball.
Right.
Only 6'2", but to me, he is Marcus Smart with more offensive ability. He's got a wider range of game.
I thought you were going to say Lou Dort, because he plays defense like he built like Lou Dort, Skip.
Yeah, he does. I guess that would work. Or
PJ Tucker.
Yeah, but Marcus Smart of those guys would be ranked the highest. So I'm going to the highest of the physical guard style play.
But the thing is, Marcus Smart guards everything from 5'10" to 6'8".
Yeah.
I don't know if Davion Mitchell.
Marcus Smart is 6'4".
Yeah.
This kid's 6'2".
Yeah, so that's asking a bit much.
Hey, but he is a beast of a 6'2" player.
And he got a body. Like I said, when you look at the Baylor guys, Skip, those guys, they're in the weight room. They ain't doing no band work. They lifting iron. Because you see I don't even want to kid the big guy. You see, what's his name, Skip? Vital.
Yeah.
You can tell the way he built. Vital.
Yep.
And the other 2 guys, I don't even want to pronounce one of them name, and Tamba. You could tell, like, hold on. That's just not just a basketball body.
Nope. I agree. Which brings us finally to Drew Timme. Or to Kispert, for that matter. And both of them, but, Kispert,
I thought Kispert's stock fell.
Well, he's somewhere in the middle of the first round.
Yeah, Skip. I mean, he did not have a good tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, he was an All-American. He was Conference Player of the Year. And I never thought he played like an All-American or played like Conference Player of the Year.
Remember the conference they play in. No knock on the West Coast, but still, the degree of difficulty increased and increased and increased. And he became a little more ordinary with each round that we win.
Right.
But he plays hard. I give you that. And he'll make a team. I don't even know if he could be a starter for a team.
I don't know, Skip, because you remember Sam Deckard at Wisconsin.
Do I?
And he was had that great run. They was a team that knocked out Kentucky.
Yep.
And he got drafted and he had spent a couple of years. He's in Turkey now.
Yep.
Sam Deckard was better than Kispert.
All right. Drew Timme, most people project him somewhere in the second round, if in fact he doesn't go back for another year.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, he might be better served going back.
Well, maybe. But again, we see crafty, we see clever, we see highly skilled, we see play hard. But last night, he was so overmatched, he turned it over 5 times.
Right.
Couldn't hold on to the basketball.
But you got to be able, when you lack athleticism, you got to be able to shoot. He needs to work on his outside shot. Because see, the thing, you look at Yoke might not be the most athletic, but he can shoot the 3. He can back you down in that one-step shot from the mid-range. He can post. Larry Bird.
Also just a big boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a big, strong.
Timme, he's crafty around the rim. Yeah. But what happens when those big guys don't let you get around the rim? Can you pull them out and hit the mid-range? Can you shoot the 3? And that's where he's going to have to expand his game if he wants to survive in the NBA.
Timmy also flourished because they can run you out of the gym.
Right.
And he would get out on the wing on the break at 6'10". He can run.
And guess what? They met their match because now Baylor had guys that can run better than Timmy could.
They said, no,
yes,
you can't do that. We're not going to let you get, get loose on us like that.
They beat him to the rim.
Yeah, interesting. So I didn't see anybody last night where I'm saying, oh, that guy's going to.
Yeah, he's going to change somebody's life, right. What you call him? Eugene?
Maybe.
Skip. He can play.
He can play.
He can play.
The lights
yes,
out.
He can play.
No mercy.
Money. Yeah. That price going up here, baby. Put that time in, get that money. Put that time in, get that money.
Back in business.
Get that money.
Here we go.
That's my favorite every single time. Our favorite video. Okay, we're getting to the news. While breaking down each NFL team's off-season moves, one anonymous scout believes that signing Dak Prescott was all the Cowboys needed to do. He told The Athletic that the Cowboys, quote, did not have to do much to get better because they are already talented. They will be fine. Shannon, is the scout right here?
Come on, be honest.
You're
Skip,
dancing.
you know he's not right. You know he's not right. Because, hold on. So they signed Dak. So how many years Dak been with the Cowboys?
5.
5 years. How many NFC Championship games have they been in? Oh, that many. How many Super Bowls have they been in? Oh, that many. So in the past 25 years, how many NFC Championship games have the Cowboys participated in? That many. With all that talent.
What's your point?
Whoa. You told me, every time I come out here, you told me since 2014, no team has drafted more Pro Bowl players than the Cowboys other than
Kansas City.
And the Kansas City has won a Super Bowl, participated in another, and been to the AFC Championship game 3 times. Now, in that same time frame, how many times have the Cowboys, with all that talent, participated in one of those contests, NFC Championship or the Super Bowl? Now, I get it, because you keep telling me this, the talent. And now you got that. Skip, when I look at you guys really don't have but one top 5 player at a position. That's Zach Martin. I mean, I think D-Law might be on the outside, but I was looking at it. They list Aaron Donald as a defensive end, maybe because he's really a 5 technique and a 3-4 defense. I don't want to get too complicated.
He does a little of both.
Right.
Yep.
So they list him as a defensive end.
Yep.
Do you think DeMarcus Lawrence is better than Aaron Donald?
Obviously, I do not.
What about
I think he's pretty good.
What about Joey Bosa?
No.
Myles Garrett?
No.
Okay. So with that being said,
I think he's pretty good? Yes.
Yeah, I think he's pretty good too.
Can he make a Pro Bowl? Yes.
No. He's made.
He has. But I'm saying, can he still make a Pro? Yes.
I don't know, can he?
Yep.
Can he? How you know? I can't tell.
He graded pretty well.
I bet all of the grades.
Yeah.
He's one of them guys that grade good, take all the shit, and stay in the same grade. Because I don't see no progression. Has he gotten better since he got that big contract? A simple yes or simple no will suffice. Thank you. Anyway.
I don't think he's gotten worse.
Skip.
He's had some no-show games.
Skip,
I give you that.
I don't give you $21 million to stay the same.
I agree.
You told me guys get paid on projecting. You said we can't pay Dak on what he's done. We got to pay Dak on what his projections are. With that being said, Skip, at some point in time, every year, Pro Football Focus and all these magazines says the Dallas Cowboys are the most talented team. Now, I need to know, because you've had so many different coaches, from Chan Gailey to Dave Campo to this one and that one, and it's something. So what is it? Is it coaching? Do you fire the coach and you get? Is it talent? Because you blame Rob Marinelli and Chris Richard. You blame Mike Nolan. You blame Jason Garrett. I mean, you're running out of blame here.
Well, we got Dan Quinn.
you got Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
And you were ready to get rid of Mike McCarthy halfway through the season.
I probably was. Okay, to answer the scouts' question about they'll be fine, they will be fine if they maximize all that's left. And that means that the glass can't be just half full. It has to be like 9/10 full, or maybe full.
Full.
Okay? Because it's all there if you max it out. And it starts with my quarterback.
Right.
Did he get overpaid? Yes, he did. Shannon Sharpe said, that's just the cost of doing business. Baloney. He got overpaid, but now he's on a hotter seat because I thought he crumbled under the pressure just to show Jerry, just to say, I'm betting on myself. And he didn't back it up because he's 6-11 in his
You've
last
been telling me since
starts.
2016, Dak Prescott is good enough to take this team to a Super Bowl.
Plural, bowls, plural. I was ready to change his first name from Rain, R-A-Y-N, Dakota Prescott, to R-E-I-G-N, as in rain, as in Super Bowls, plural.
As in R-A-I-N.
Okay, well, that's been a hard rain on me too many times. But the point is, he got paid.
Yes.
God bless him. Go, Dak, go. 4 more years, 4 more years. He got everything he wanted. The deal is all Dak all the time. He ran rings around Jerry. I'm just not sure if it's Super Bowl rings or just diamond rings, right?
They're telling Jerry, I am not a crook.
Okay. So now he has to live up to the biggest signing bonus in the history of professional football.
Yeah.
He has to live up to the most guaranteed money in the history of the National Football League.
Yep.
Whew. He has to play up. I've called him Brady S to you many times before.
Yes, you have.
He has to live up to the kind of season Tom Brady had in his first season for the Succaneers last year when he was graded by Pro Football Focus #2 quarterback in the regular season and #1 overall quarterback in grade in the postseason.
Right.
That's the kind of year he's going to have because for me, it's going to be Dak or bust.
Right.
But now let's say, wait a second, does he have weapons? Well, you know he has weapons because Zeke is still a semblance of Zeke. Well, he's still a semblance, and he has his moments, and I think he will snap out of whatever funk
1,400 yards rushing?
What's that?
1,400 yards rushing?
It's got potential. I don't know if I want to go that far. I don't want to jinx my team. I jinxed it last year, so I'm biting my lip. I'm not going to go there.
Your team's been terrible. You ain't jinxed it.
Okay. Blake Jarwin's going to have a breakout year last year, and he blew out his knee in game #1 out here against the Rams as they open their new stadium. That's a big loss. I've called him Shannon Jarwin before.
Well, Schultz played well, Skip.
Okay, but Blake Jarwin's got athletic build. Dak's called him the best athlete on the team. Well, he's back, and I hope he can get and stay completely healthy.
That in and of itself tell you they're not that talented. If the tight end is the best athlete on the team.
Okay, well, yeah, but those 3 receivers can be lethal. You know it and I know it. They all have 1,000-yard potential, each and every one of them. CeeDee Lamb will continue to rise and shine, and he will become the #1 receiver this year.
He better not. You paying Amari Cooper $21 million.
Well, that's fine. That's a done deal. It's over and forgotten.
Yeah.
We got to move forward.
You paid him that just to keep him away from a football team. Okay,
we did. But the point is that if the offensive linemen live up and stay healthy, I'm doing the glasses full. If Ty Smith can have a year, he's not too old to have another Pro Bowl year. Lyle Collins is definitely not too old to have a Pro Bowl year.
Both coming off major injuries.
Okay, but they're not old men. They're younger men. Ty just turned 30. Lyle Collins is 27.
Skip, but when you have the kind of mileage that Ty Smith has, that back, they've gone into that back again. He had knee problems. Every year, you notice he's having more injuries, and they're keeping him out for more extended periods of time.
Okay, Zach Martin, as you just said, he can be #1 at his position if he just stays healthy.
Yes.
So give me those 3 reasonably healthy for a whole year. I can cook with that. And then on defense, give me DeMarcus Lawrence, give me Randy Gregory. I think Aldon Smith may re-sign with them before all is said and done. Give me those kids that they have inside, Neville Gallimore and Tristan Hill. They're pretty good. And then all of a sudden, we had one free agent signing that was pretty good.
What?
Keanu Neal. He made the Pro Bowl in 2017 and had an Achilles and had an ACL, and he can't run anymore, so he can't play safety, but they're going to transition him to linebacker. Wolf Hunter, Jalen Smith, Keanu Neal. Now at least you'll start to stop the run. They were second worst against the run last year.
You got a bunch of guys that miss a lot of tackles close to the line of scrimmage.
But
Wolf Hunter, Jalen Smith, and Keanu Neal.
Okay, we gave up one 300-yard rush day to the Cleveland Browns and 3 other 200-plus yard
Well, the Baltimore Ravens, if they'd have kept at it, they'd have got 400 on you.
I got you.
They felt sorry for you.
But I like the linebackers if they can stay healthy. Wolf Hunter has been fragile.
Yes.
He's been brittle.
What y'all going to do with Sean Lee?
Okay, well, I'm not even including him in the...
Why not?
Well, I think he's done... He might be an assistant coach next year. He may coach the linebackers. And then I think they're going to take Patrick... I hope they take Patrick Surtain, unless, of course, somebody else falls to them. We're going to talk about that a little later. But if you have Surtain and Trevon Diggs, the 2 Bama bookend corners, I'm pretty good with that. Kazee had one good year. He led the league in interceptions, at least tied for it. He had the most interceptions over a 2-year period before he blew his Achilles tendon out. So I don't know if he's healthy, but he's going to start at free safety, making a grand total of $1.1 million. My mom always said, you get what you pay for. Maybe that's what you get.
Well, you got $1 million safety.
Okay, $1 million safety, 1.1. That's what Cam made last year, right?
That's what you got.
Okay, and then Donovan Wilson had a breakout year last year at strong safety. So I just gave you the makings of a much better defense with a new defensive coordinator who has to be better than the old one who was simply the worst.
He has to be with the same ingredients, huh?
Well, I don't know. He loved his Atlanta kids, so he brought them along for the ride, right?
I didn't look at Atlanta. At some point in time, and Jerry, this is Jerry's problem. Jerry will always make excuses for his players because he's so close to the players. Jerry sees a player like he's going to get him a drink. Hey, that's how Jerry is. It's always the coaches. It was Wade Phillips' fault. It was Dave Campo's fault. It was Jason Garrett's fault. It's this one's fault. It's always someone's fault. What about those players? At the end of the day, all I can do as a head coach is prepare you, give you the best game plan, both offensively, defensively, and special teams. Now it's up to you to go execute that. When y'all gonna execute that?
Next year.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do.
Okay.
We have a made man as our head coach.
Stop saying that.
He had a rocky first year, but he's back.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You had a man that got made. Now, I want to know, how does a guy coach 13, 14 years, get two guys, got a guy that, I mean, think about what he's had. He had Brett Favre with 3 MVPs.
Yep.
He got Aaron Rodgers with 3 MVPs. So he has a guy with 6 MVPs between the two of them, and he's got 1 Super Bowl appearance on his resume.
He was a postseason victim of Aaron Rodgers.
No, Aaron Rodgers was a postseason victim of him.
Aaron Rodgers, 7-8 since that long ago Super Bowl in the postseason.
As a matter of fact, what's Mike McCarthy's record without Aaron Rodgers? He can't even make the playoffs. At least Aaron Rodgers going to the NFC Championship game without him.
It's time, Dak. Rise, shine, Super Bowls, plural.
Plural. Can we
Yep.
just let them get to
No. How about y'all win the division? Y'all not even win the division.
We're going to win this division. I didn't bring up the division because it's over. It's a joke.
Skip, y'all won the division in 2 years.
Okay, time out.
Okay.
Do you want to place any bets on the division next year? No, you don't. You're too afraid.
I'll tell you what. You take the Cowboys like I got the field.
Oh, you want the field?
Okay, I'll do
Yeah,
that.
I got you. I appreciate that.
You got me?
Yeah, you proposed that bit.
I think in 2021 you're now down 32 cases to me, so I'll
I'm
put
down like 25.
I'll put 5 on that. Do you want 5?
Yeah.
I'll take Dallas versus the field in the NFC least.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Thank you.
No mercy. Back down.
Warriors rookie James Wiseman is getting tips from more than just his teammates. Wiseman said he not only has gotten advice from Kyrie Irving, but he also talks to Kevin Durant every day and has known him since high school. The rookie said that KD helps him with the Warrior system and how he should fit into it. So, Shannon, were you surprised to hear this?
I was a little, but I guess I shouldn't be, Skip, because guess what? The top high school basketball players, Skip, they come in contact with these NBA players because of Nike has basketball camps, so does Adidas. So you're wearing one of those shoes, and they have the Kevin Durants, they have the Kyries, they have the guys, the James Harden with Adidas, and these other guys, they go back. And so you get an opportunity to see the top high school players. And obviously, you see a lot of time floating on social media, Jason Tatum. He took a picture with everybody. When he was coming up as a little kid, he with LeBron, he got a picture with Kobe. And so, Skip, you see it with social media now. Guys just reach out. Guys play well, and guys start following guys, and I'm sure guys hit them up in the DM. So I was a little surprised, but you know what? Now that I look back at it, traveling AAU team, Skip, these high school guys, Skip, Zion probably had 2-3 million followers when he was in high school. So it's different now than when it was when I was in high school or 10 years after I got out of high school. These guys are household names now. People knew who Zion Williamson was in high school, whereas before, you didn't know who the guys were. You just wait till they get to college, and unless you play AAU ball, but everybody knows who these guys are now. So now with the basketball camps and these guys, James Wiseman, I'm sure he went to a Nike camp. And I'm sure probably KD and Kyrie, some of these other guys were there. They exchanged information, and here we are today. So, but I don't think the Warriors should have a problem with it.
Well, not the Warriors. I think the Nets would have a problem.
Why?
Well, are they trying to train or raise a player to dethrone them? Is that what they're trying to do?
They ain't worried about it. KD ain't worried about that.
Okay.
That's when you're securing yourself. You ain't worried about that.
Okay. So, what I call the dubious duo is at it again. And the dubious duo are two of the greatest offensive players we have ever seen in the history of this sport of basketball. But the dubious duo, Kyrie and KD, as great as they are on the court, as unstoppable as they are on the court, they can be inexplicable to me off the court. I can't defend a lot of their actions. I'm dumbfounded by a lot of things that they do. We just went through the ordeal with KD versus our man Michael Rappaport. And from day to day, I don't know what Kyrie's going to do next. From night to night, I don't know what he's going to do next on the court because he got 40 last night.
If he plays, he's going to drop probably 30, 40 on your head.
If he plays. That's the key phrase, right? So the dubious duo is at it again because James Wiseman is saying, well, yeah, they constantly give me feedback and counsel me and teach me. And he says, James Wiseman, that he talks to Kevin Durant every day. Talks to him every day? Well, okay, forgive me, I'm old school on this, but Michael Jordan, greatest player ever played, my favorite player of all time, there is no way he would do this because it's just not how you do business in the National Basketball Association. It is not up to Kevin and Kyrie to raise up James Wiseman, who, by the way, has a lot of ability at 7 feet tall, and he can shoot it. So far this year, he's averaging 11 and 6, but he's had a 25-point game, and he's had 2 11-rebound games. So that's 25 and 11. So you can see it's there. It is there.
Right.
And there are nights when I watch him, I say, whew.
Well, Skip, it's a different time. It's a different era now. Guys work out together.
Okay.
You didn't see. I mean, before COVID, Skip, out here in L.A., you would see Kevin Durant, James Harden before he was linked up with him, and LeBron and all these other guys competing in the same gym. Guys work out together. Even in the NFL, guys will work out together. That was never really the case early on. But now, Skip, it's a different era now. Guys feel I can be friendly off it, but still go do my job on the field to make sure I get my job done and compete at a high level.
Okay, but it's one thing to be friendly. It's quite another to coach a kid from a distance. But Kevin's coaching James Wiseman on the Warriors offense, which Kevin obviously knows like the back of his hand.
Right.
And he's trying to explain to him, this is where you need to be. This is how you do it. This is where you're going to get your best shots from.
Right.
This is how you play off Steph or whoever's out there at that point, right? So that's Kevin on a daily basis trying to teach and coach James Wiseman. Well, as you said, it's like the height of arrogance or just sheer audacity. Like, I'm Kevin Durant, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you Kevin Durant teach him everything Wiseman knows. Not everything I know.
Well, okay. Are you?
They're two totally different players. If James Wiseman was the skill set of Kevin Durant, okay, maybe. But Skip, I don't believe. Why are you hoarding that information?
Hoarding it?
Yeah.
It's one thing if he's your teammate, like you've told me before, you went ahead and divulged to the young tight ends.
Yeah.
This is how I do it, right?
Yeah.
Because that's sort of your obligation as an older player.
Right.
I'll show you the way. I'll show you the ropes, okay? I got that, but this is a player on another team that you should have.
You act like he's showing the information and sharing it with LeBron. He ain't sharing it with LeBron, is he? Or Giannis?
Who? Kevin?
KD.
Well, LeBron could use it.
No, he couldn't. Why you use
Well,
it?
he's the best player on the planet.
Don't do that, Skip.
Well,
I thought you had to play to be the best player.
well, I mean, Kevin could teach LeBron how to shoot. We know that.
Free throws, that's all they can teach about to shoot.
Yeah, I wonder if is he practicing his free throws right now? Because
on one leg,
a bad ankle does not stop you from going in the backyard and shooting free throws.
we got that one leg up like a flamingo practicing free throws.
Really? Really?
Yeah, come
you
back
making
80%.
100? You make, what, 95 out of 100 in the backyard?
Yeah, nah, sometimes we do like They had a Steph Curry moment. We went 100 for 100.
Did you?
And then a couple times we went like 55 out of 100. We went like 75 out of 100. But we improving.
So in golf, they call that Ranger Rick because you can't take it from the driving range out to the real golf course, right? You're just Ranger Rick. You're over there on the range.
Yeah, but see, the range is just wide open space. But see, on the course, you got to bend it. You got to slice it. You got to hook it.
I know, but it's just the pressure of now it really counts. Now if I miss one, it counts.
And then you don't got fans lined up like so hit one in the head.
You're telling me the 69% free throw shooter that is LeBron James, MVP, quote unquote, is going to improve quickly?
Hello. James Wiseman. This was about James Wiseman.
I know, but I read this story yesterday that LeBron gets up at 5 a.m. to start rehabbing. I'm not sure how much you can do at 5 a.m. to your ankle. You put ice on it. You
ice, stem. Yeah, we do all that. We get the blood flow. Probably do a little acupuncture.
You go,
get up, get the hot.
Wet heat, ice, wet heat, ice. Do you just keep doing it all day long?
Every couple of hours. We probably, because we sleeping in the hyperbaric chamber, get the blood flow and altitude training. That's what we're doing that. We're doing plenty of that, but I tell you what, when we come back, we'll be ready.
Yeah.
It's like we never left.
Well, I'd like to see him down the stretch shoot 85% from the free throw line.
I tell you what you will see down the stretch, holding the trophy up. Yeah. That's what you'll see down the stretch.
Well, he'll watch Rondo hold it up.
Rondo will hold it. Stop it. No. I'd rather Brooklyn Nets win like 3 of them. As opposed to the team
if the Nets aren't careful, they're going to watch James Wiseman hold it up. Seriously.
Stop it.
No, I'm serious.
How are you going to hold it up when Steph is playing with the Lakers? You don't know what happened next year. When they traded.
At some point, Klay Thompson's actually going to be able to play pretty soon.
And guess what? And Steph going to be playing alongside LeBron and AD.
Think so? Yeah, LeBron needs all the help he can get. He needs to get Steph. He needs to get Dame. He needs them all. Just come all to L.A.
I would love to have Dame. Yeah. Can you imagine Dame with LeBron and AD?
Yeah.
That would be hold on. I love how you got a problem with if LeBron get anybody, you got a problem. KD got the most stacked offensive lineup in the history of the NBA, and you ain't said a peep. Now you got a Brooklyn Nets jersey. You got a Clippers jersey. You might sew them together. I just might.
Clippers got Rondo. That's all that really matters. So we got Clippers versus Nets in the finals, and then we'll see what happens.
Nah.
Yep. I think Rondo will be the difference.
Lakers.
Yep.
All I'm saying, all I need is to get healthy. That's it. All I need is health. I don't need nothing else.
Do you have any updates for us, Shannon? Have you checked in with your guy, LeBron?
It is suspicious how long he's been out.
It ain't no suspicious. Never scared everybody to be 3 weeks on Sunday. Really? Stop doing that. You know good well I'll be Saturday. You're talking about suspicious.
No mercy.
Saturday night, the NASCAR Cup Series moves to FS1, where we can see our 8th Jeopardy winner of the season. Catch all the short track action with the Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief 500 from Martinsville, Saturday at 7 Eastern on FS1 and anywhere on the Fox Sports app. Well, let's break down what we saw, guys. Baylor jumped out to an early lead over Gonzaga last night and never looked back on the way to an 86-70 win. The Bears never trailed once, en route to handing the Bulldogs their first loss of the season. And Jared Butler, who dropped 22 points in the win, walked away with the most outstanding player honors for Baylor. Fox College basketball analyst Steve Lavin is now with us. Coach, it is great to have you, but I hate to remind you, you were leaning the Zags yesterday. So how surprised were you by the outcome?
Not surprised by Baylor's victory, but the convincing fashion was surprising. They dominated from start to finish, and their ball pressure, their athleticism, their quickness, the balance they demonstrated in terms of, defensively being outstanding, but then on offense, knocking down 10 threes. And on the year, they shot 42% from long range. And those 3 guards played with a chip on their shoulder. When you look at Butler and Mitchell and Teague, clearly the best perimeter attack in the country. And they brought it at a magic level last night, and it led to them cutting down the nets.
Coach, I agree with you. That's what my thing was. I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that they won. but the convincing fashion in which they used to dominate. They dominated this team, and I thought it was their quickness and their physicality. If you look at the Baylor players, they have football bodies, and they were able to get into the Gonzaga guys. They never let them get to where they wanted to. And as you mentioned, when you make those kind of threes and you get 16 offensive rebounds, my concern was when you play three guards, you're a little undersized, Coach. So how do you get rebounds? But what happens is that they put Drew Timme in the high pick and roll, and so they can get whatever they want. But if they didn't, the big guys were rolling to the rim, getting layups and dunks. And so now, even if you missed a shot, you got a big guy on a guard trying to box out a 6'6", 6'7" guy, which kept, and Vital just kept getting rebound after rebound after rebound, giving them second chance after second chance. Gonzaga, whatever they didn't do was because the Baylor would not allow them to do it.
Yeah, it was almost, if we use a football parallel, like some of Pete Carroll's strong USC teams or Nick Saban with Alabama in terms of the way he's deployed his teams defensively, just so disruptive, and the speed, electrifying athleticism, their pursuit of rebounds, of loose balls, contesting every shot. There were very few open shots by Gonzaga. They were harassed, completely discombobulated and unnerved throughout. And that's a credit to Scott Drew and the staff in terms of game preparation. But also, as you mentioned, along the front line, coming out of the Big 12, the Bears have some rugged players down low. And then they complement that with the wiry strength and length and foot speed on the perimeter. At the end of the day, it was just too much for Gonzaga.
So, Coach, I don't want to go so far as to say Gonzaga was overrated, but wouldn't you go so far as to say Baylor was way underrated?
You know, it's a good point, and let's look at it big picture. This is the culmination of a 2-year run by Baylor. They had an outstanding season last year, and before the cancellation of the NCAA tournament because of COVID, they were poised to potentially win a national title a year ago. They come back with their nucleus and they hit on all cylinders, and they kind of flew just below the radar because of all the attention on Gonzaga being undefeated. I also think coming out of the Big 12, they were tested. The Big 10 this year was the deepest league and deserving of the bids that made the NCAA tournament. But the Big 12 was the most rugged. And keep in mind, this was not even a stellar year for Kansas, but because of Texas and Texas Tech and Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, I think the game preparation for NCAA tournament play as a result of that rugged Big 12 played a part in Baylor's national championship. And when you play different styles, as the Big 12 has, and you're tested every night, even though Baylor lost a few games, I think it ultimately helped them. Gave them a report card. They were able to recalibrate, improve in some of those deficiencies that were exposed in losses. And then they never looked back once they stepped into the NCAA tournament. They were dominant. I've said this defense is similar to the 1990 UNLV Running Rebels defense under Jerry Tarkanian when they cut down the nets and really dominated Duke in the national championship game in Denver, going way back.
Coach, Tim and I talked at the top of the show. I was thinking maybe this was a blessing in disguise. The December 5th game was canceled because Gonzaga would have got an opportunity to see just how physical, just how fast Baylor worked. You know, you mentioned it yesterday, like when you watch somebody on film, you're like, okay, they look good, okay, they look fast, they look this. But until you get out there and actually experience it for yourself, then you don't, but it's too late. Well, if they had played December 5th, Gonzaga would have had a game to say, man, look, that pass there, that's going to get picked off. That pass there is going to get deflected. They're going to body us here. And so because they were basically going in blind, only having to watch tape, I don't think they realized just how fast, just how physical that Baylor, and the refs allowed them to body him. They allowed a lot of contact last night.
Yeah, it's a very good point because Gonzaga probably comes in, if they had faced Baylor earlier in the year, with more pressure releases in terms of some back screens, some back cuts, emptying a side. And you could really see how unnerved Gonzaga was, in particular Timme and Kispert. They're not accustomed to having someone guard them as physically, but also with the length and the lateral foot speed and the quickness, like great defensive backs in football. It was a scenario where this was the first game all year that Gonzaga faced a team with this type of tenacity. I mean, the Zags were under duress from start to finish. And, they're 20 points off their season average. They were held, to 70 points last night. They averaged 90 points, just under 90 on the year. So a tip of the hat to Scott Drew, his staff, and this really tough Baylor Bears team.
Steve, speaking of coaching, give me your view of this. Obviously, we saw a Baylor team that loved to play defense because you have to want to play defense the way that team played it every possession. But on offense, this is what caught my eye and captured my imagination. They actually have 4 guards who can take you off the dribble. Anybody, any defender, they could each take you off the dribble and get in the lane. Does it not astound you that they didn't seem to have any sharing problems? Because is it your turn or your turn or your turn? Well, they take turns and nobody wants to score 20 a game because they don't have a 20-point score. And does it amaze you that Coach Drew could keep all the egos in check to say, okay, it's your turn to go off the dribble, then it's your turn to go one-on-one, now you can go solo, and there never seemed to be any loss of continuity among those 4 different guards who could go score it at will.
Yeah, it reminds me to use a contemporary example of Golden State with their small ball approach, the positionless approach, the interchangeable parts, multiple players that can pass, dribble, and shoot the ball. And that puts opponents in a real tough spot in terms of trying to match up because they stretch your defense with the threat of the three-point shot. If you guard or honor the three-point shot, they can beat you off the bounce with the quick first step. And then they make great reads in terms of concept basketball on the move. Arizona in 97 under Lute Olson with Bibby, Simon, Terry, and Dickerson had those 4 players on the floor. They won the national title, beat 3 number 1 seeds on the way to cut down the nets, the only time that's ever happened. And think back to 97, that Arizona team was middle of the Pac-12, at that point, the Pac-10, and really surprised people. It was a lower-seeded team in terms of Lute Olson's era, but they played with house money and cut down the nets. And this Baylor team reminds me some in terms of that attack approach, but making good choices. Sometimes we'll say, a team has great athletes, and to me, it's almost, a backhanded compliment. This team plays with intelligence, with purpose and aggressiveness. And yes, they also are quick and athletic, but it's a cohesive bunch tied together at both ends of the floor. And Scott Drew, again, just a wonderful job of pushing the right buttons all year and having his team on point. Even after a couple of those losses, people thought the Bears may be vulnerable and weren't going to get it done. They represented the Big 12 and that university in first-class manner.
Coach, shouldn't we have known something? Gonzaga, we saw them go to a 1-3-1 Saturday, but that was to try to speed UCLA up because UCLA was taking the air out of the ball. They was trying to make every possession, try to get down to 25 seconds before they took a shot. We saw them go into a zone last night. They are a man team, and Baylor had no problem getting up and down, but it seems to me that Gonzaga wanted to slow them down. But the problem is they don't really have a true big. So the guy that was hitting the middle of the court was Teague, was the guys that can shoot the ball, and they were getting wide open looks.
Yeah, I think, clearly, Gonzaga's defense was exposed last night. Again, it goes back to skill, speed, quickness. And if Mark Few naturally could go back and had a couple games tough in terms of your scheduling, not to second guess it here on Tuesday morning, the night after a championship game, because 31-1 is a heck of a record. But when you are in the West Coast Conference, you're not facing teams like Texas and Texas Tech, the speed merchants in the Big 12, going back to that analogy to Pete Carroll's team in football or Nick Saban's team in football. And when you faced it some, that helps you as you grow as a basketball team over the course of the year because you've seen everything by the teams you face in conference and non-conference. And I do think it looked as though Gonzaga was stunned. And maybe they didn't have the energy, emotional, physical energy in the fuel tank coming off the season they've had, being undefeated, trying to be perfect and go 32-0 for the first team since Bob Knight's Hoosiers in 75-76. And maybe they just didn't have that extra fuel that you need at championship night. But I think even if this team played a best-of-7 series Baylor wins 4-2. I don't even think it goes to 7 games. Baylor, just a better team, and that was clearly on display last night. And that's not to take anything away from Gonzaga's remarkable season and run, 31-1. Mark Few and his staff and those players deserve a salute as well.
So if you were coaching today, Steve, it looks like one and done, at least for the moment, is done because Baylor started 2 seniors and 3 juniors, and they look like grown men last night. Would you go that direction if you were recruiting today to try to go older? I know they had a bunch of transfers come in.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things now, the transfer portal. I think 1,100 names have been entered into that portal. That's been the biggest change in college basketball. You had the shot clock in the 80s, and you had the three-point line in 87. But I think now the transfer portal, in terms of what's influencing the game, the ability to reload in a heartbeat like free agency, but in college, but also you can be gutted if you have 6 or 7 players, as a number of schools have had, transfer out. If I were to coach today, I'd want a balance. And again, it depends where you're coaching. If I was in the Ivy League, then you want, in terms of tortoise and hares, more tortoises. They're going to stay 4 or 5 years, provide stability and continuity, a cohesiveness because they played together longer, like musicians. If you're at North Carolina, UCLA, Kentucky, or Kansas, you need a mix. Enough of those stabilizing players will be there 4 or 5 years if you redshirt them. But also some players can come in, like a Carmelo Anthony, a Mike Bibby. You look through the history of the game, there's been freshmen that can really elevate a program to another level. You look at Villanova's success. That's what they've had, is a mix of kids that have gone out, after their sophomore year, but also they've had those kids that stay 3 or 4 years, and it's led to 2 national titles and 3 Final Fours for Jay Wright, Villanova. So I do think there's a trend towards recruiting players that aren't going to leave after a year. But if you get one, you're not going to complain. Yeah. You just don't want an entire roster full of one-and-dones or players that have an exaggerated opinion of themselves and they aren't ready, but they leave because they're listening to the wrong people or not realistic about where they are in the NBA draft.
So which of the players on the floor last night will be the best in the NBA, in your opinion, after what you saw?
Boy, Mitchell defensively, the ability to both guard but create and knock down shots, he appears tailor-made for the NBA. And I still am bold on Suggs because, I think as good as Kispert and Timmy are as college players, it's not as though Suggs is surrounded by lottery picks. And you put him in a system like Golden State when Klay Thompson is back. He is ideally suited to play make, can shot make. There's a fluidity, a shiftiness, and his ability to make precise passes in tight quarters, surgical passes. He has some of the intangibles as well, in terms of no moment is too big for him. And we saw that in their win over UCLA in the semifinals. So I like Suggs' defense as well. He's got broad shoulders. There's a strength, a gravitas to his game, and he processes at a very high level, like we talk about in football with quarterbacks. Some are playing chess, some are playing checkers. So I'm still big on Jalen Suggs, even though they lost last night, because I envision Suggs with a surrounding cast of NBA players, which is different than being surrounded by college players. Granted, Gonzaga, a very strong team, good personnel, but last night they ran into Baylor that had better personnel.
Yeah, and Skip, you brought it up earlier, Suggs and his effort level. He was incredible really throughout the tournament. Steve, Coach, it is great to have you. We appreciate you joining us this morning to break it all down. What a season, and congrats again to Baylor. We'll check in with you again very soon, guys. Well, it appears the Jets will indeed be drafting a quarterback with the 2nd overall pick, like most experts projected. Yesterday, they finally traded away former number 3 overall pick Sam Darnold to the Panthers. And in return, New York received a 6th-round pick this year and a 2nd and a 4th next year. If the Jets do draft a quarterback, they would be the first team in the common draft era to select 2 quarterbacks in the top 3 picks over a 4-year span, which is crazy to think about. So, Shannon, how does this trade impact the top of the draft?
Well, Skip, we always thought the draft was going to start at the 3rd slot. When the 49ers moved up to the 3 spot, we thought that's where the draft, because it was pretty, for the most part, everybody said, look, Lawrence is going to Jacksonville. Wilson's going to the Jets. Okay, what does the 49ers do since they traded up from 12 to come to 3?
Although there was a point when you thought the Jets should stick with Sam Darnold.
Right? Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so that would change everything because all of a sudden Zach Wilson comes into play for the 49ers.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe they thought that Zach Wilson was going to be off the board.
Okay.
And so now the question is, does the 49ers take Mac Jones, Trey Lance, or Justin Fields?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question. Now,
and according to reports, John Lynch and your man Kyle Shanahan
likes one guy.
Yeah.
John Lynch likes another guy.
Okay.
But Kyle has final say.
Yes.
So Kyle's going to win out this situation.
No, Mike has final say. Your coach, Mike Shanahan, who seems to be the overarching final say to the whole organization.
He's the oracle. He oversees all.
All right.
It's going to get really interesting, Skip. Then it's going to get, because I think 3, 4, and 5, 3, 4 going to be very interesting. What does the Falcons do? Do they get a replacement for Matt Ryan, or do they take Kyle Pitts sitting in that spot? Because they're set at receiver. They got Ridley, they got Julio. Do they take Kyle Pitts, or did they find a replacement for Matt Ryan? So I think it gets very interesting at 3, 4 because I believe that the 49ers are going to take Mac Jones at 3. Now the question is, what does the Falcons do at 4? Is it a quarterback to replace Matt Ryan, or do you take Kyle Pitts, who I believe is the best player in the draft?
Albert Breer has reported that both Falcons at 4 and Lions at 7 are open to trading back.
Right.
So if somebody wants to go up to get
a quarterback or Kyle Pitts.
Or Kyle Pitts.
Right.
Okay, my turn. Speaking of Kyle Pitts, I'm going to say it again. I believe he will be more dominant at his position than any quarterback in this draft will be at his position.
I agree.
In the end, he doesn't play as valuable a position as quarterback.
Right.
But I'm saying do not sleep on that, which my shock of the morning, I mentioned this earlier, but Mike Tannenbaum posted a mock draft of his. He's the former, this is on ESPN, but he's the former GM of the Jets and Dolphins. He has Kyle Pitts sliding all the way to 12 to Philadelphia. Well, let me tell you, if Kyle Pitts somehow slides all the way to 10 to my Cowboys, as badly as we need Patrick Surtain, if Kyle Pitts is sitting there, you strengthen your strength. You just take him. He's just too good. It's like CeeDee Lamb last year. I'm sorry, you take Kyle Pitts.
Well, Skip, so if the Bengals stand pat and the Dolphins stand pat, well, clearly the Bengals are not taking a quarterback. What are they taking? They got them to take an offensive lineman?
No, Jamar Chase. You know, like it'd be one of those Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase.
Right.
But most people favor Jamar Chase slightly over Devontae.
What about the Dolphins at 6?
Okay. Again, do they want Devontae for Tua? Because they're soulmates. You know, they used to have a great connection when they played at Alabama.
Right.
Is that what you could pencil that in? I would take Kyle Pitts there. But if you want pure wideout, you'd have to go that direction.
Right.
And then who takes Penei Sewell, the offensive lineman, by far the best offensive lineman graded in the draft?
If I'm saying that, I'll probably go there.
Okay, well, and that's...
You better protect Joe Burrow,
A lot of people think that's where they would go, okay? But which quarterback is going to slide? Because I can tell you who is hovering right now is your man, Coach Belichick, is saying, where could I go up to get Justin Fields?
Right.
Or where could I go up to get Trey Lance? I think Trey Lance is going to go fast. I think he is the X factor here, and he might have the most upside of any of these quarterbacks in the end. He's probably got the biggest arm. He's got the most athletic ability.
Probably the rawest of all of them.
He is the rawest. But when you look at what he did at North Dakota State, it was flawless. I mean, it was perfect.
But if Carolina
in a small sample size.
But if Carolina says they're not out of the quarterback market, they're sitting at 8. Could one of these quarterbacks, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, could one of these quarterbacks, Mac Jones, could one of these quarterbacks? Definitely. So they're going to have to make a call. They went and got Sam Darnold. I don't think he's the answer. I'm not sure they think he's the answer. Right.
But why do you want to stockpile? You still have Bridgewater. You could obviously move any of these quarterbacks.
Would you move up to 4 if you want a quarterback?
If you're
Carolina.
If you're Carolina, with what? You just traded some.
You still got a first. You could swap. You could swap positions. You go to and trade next year's one.
Okay. Why did you go get Sam Darnold then? To be your backup? I don't think so.
I trade him again. Can you trade him again?
I don't know. I don't know what the rules are. Okay.
I'll be like at a swap meet. I buy something and I trade you this for it.
Okay.
But I believe, Skip, the draft is going to really start at 3-4 because what does who does the 49ers take? We all we think Mac Jones. We think Mac Jones.
Yeah, I would think so.
And the Falcons, you said the Falcons said they'd be willing to trade back.
Okay.
Well, if they're willing to trade back.
QB.
Right. If they tell me they're willing to trade back, they're not taking a quarterback because there's no way you trade back and be able to get a quarterback.
Well, when is it too soon to take a quarterback to replace Matt Ryan?
Because Matt Ryan was 08, so he's his 14th season?
It's not too soon.
No.
Especially if you believe in some. Again, the X factor would be Trey Lance. If you just said that guy's the guy, then you should just take him, sit right there and take him at 4.
It's just hard, Skip, because the defensive linemen are getting so athletic.
Yep.
Matt Ryan is a dying breed. Guys that can't escape. Skip, you got to be able to get out when it goes off script.
Yep.
You got to be able to get out of harm's way, and he can't. He can't. He can't. His lack of athleticism is a liability. Which before everybody wanted to drop back, prototypical. Oh, we just want the guy to be 6'4", 6'5", just drop back and throw it. Well, now he has to get out of harm's way, and it's very difficult for Matt to get out of harm's way consistently.
Okay. Which brings me to the 9th overall pick, one trap door ahead of my Dallas Cowboys at 10, and it's your Denver
Which one you want to move up?
Well, I don't think Drew Lock is the answer.
Don't worry about what we're thinking.
Yeah.
You want to move up. We'll swap with you, but
we're going
to take next year's number 1.
Yep. I just don't want you. If Kyle Pitts has slid to number 9, I don't want Denver taking Kyle Pitts because I want him.
Well, slide
I'll take
up
him.
to get it. Well, you know what? We're gonna trade back with somebody so y'all don't get him.
Really?
Yep.
Somebody would go up to 9 to snatch Kyle Pitts.
Absolutely.
They would, or they should anyway.
Yes.
Well, we'll see. But it all starts with your man Kyle Shanahan. I think there's a curveball to be thrown there.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think he goes Fields or Trey Lance?
Yeah, they'll take Trey Lance.
Really?
Yeah. There's some reason they went up there.
Yeah.
They zeroed in on somebody, the two Shanahans together, father and son said, that's the guy, and we have to go get him.
No mercy.
In less than a week, the North Carolina Tar Heels have named longtime assistant Hubert Davis as Roy Williams' replacement. Davis has been at UNC for 9 years as an assistant under Williams and will become the first black head coach in the school's men's basketball program. So, Shannon, was Davis the right choice here?
Yeah, I think he was, Skip, because obviously when you talk about North Carolina, Skip, you try to get the big fish. You always try to go.
By the way, you grew up a
Tar Heel fan. Yes.
Yep.
The first day we lost in '81 to Indiana. People don't remember that. They lost in '81. That was when our President Reagan was almost assassinated.
I was there in Philadelphia.
Almost postponed the game. So, Skip, with that being said, there are only a handful of guys, really, that I'm sure that the chancellor or president, whatever he is, put out feelers. Now, Bill Self signed a lifetime contract with Kansas. He's off the table. Coach Cal's not leaving Kentucky. He's off the table. Coach K ain't leaving Duke. If he wouldn't leave Duke for the Lakers for $8 million, he ain't going in state. He ain't going down the road to Carolina.
Not to your arch rival.
Right.
No.
So now there's 3 big names off. I was like, okay, what about Drew? What about the guy at Baylor? I guess he probably wasn't interested. So I like this hire because, as Hubert Davis said yesterday, it's about more than basketball. Because, guys, with the exception of Tubby Smith, there haven't been a whole lot of blacks that got an opportunity to coach at these blue bloods.
Yep.
And so this was an opportunity to say, okay, we're going to put some teeth to this. We've been talking about it. We're all about inclusion. We're all about diversity and giving people opportunities. This is what Carolina did. He went to Carolina. He's coached at Carolina for almost a decade now.
Yep.
So he knows the intricacies. Now, he's going to have to do it, Skip. The days of just, this Carolina. See, Roy Williams can show up and say, this Carolina. Like, Nick Saban shows up, this Alabama. Now, when Nick Saban leaves, they're not going to be able to say this is Alabama. Nick Saban has that kind of cachet, Skip. Just like with Florida, when Urban Meyer shows up, it's different when he shows up at Florida and Ohio State than somebody else come in. Hubert Davis is going to have to do a little bit more selling than you would normally have to do with Carolina. Now, they're one of their best players, Walker Kessler. He's in transfer portal.
Yeah.
And Coach Lavin was talking about that earlier. They got 1,100 guys in the transfer portal, Skip. So that might be, instead of the one and dones, I'm going to try to get a guy that's already played a couple of years and try to get him to come to my program because I already know what he's capable of doing. I don't have to ask questions. But I like the hire.
Okay. I really like the hire. I thought it was the obvious right way to go for all the reasons you just detailed. And for those who've forgotten, Hubert Davis played for 4 years at Carolina. In his last year, he averaged 21 a game and shot 43% from three. So he could shoot.
Yes, he could.
He was the 20th overall pick by the Knicks. He did bounce around to 6 different NBA franchises. But one year he shot 49% from three and won the three-point percentage title for that season in the league. So he could shoot it.
Yes.
Not a big scorer, not really much of a starter. He just bounced around the league and had a pretty good career for 12 seasons.
Right.
He knows the ropes, college and pro basketball.
Yes.
I was around him a good bit at ESPN, not pretending to know him, but I was on shows with him, and I know how he works. He is smart. He is locked in. He is dedicated. He would sometimes frustrate me on TV because you knew he knew, but he wouldn't go there because he was born to be a coach.
Right.
And you knew he had it in his blood, and he was just biding his time to go into coaching.
Right.
And he belonged in coaching. So I was relieved for him. Not that he wasn't good on TV and did a very good job, because he's very dedicated to the process of television. But when it was time, he went home. He went to Carolina, and he served 9 years of internship under Roy Williams. He's ready. He's 50 years of age. Again, has he ever coached a game as a head coach? He has not. But will that matter? No. He's part of the family tree.
Right.
He'll get it. He'll know it. He'll be able to recruit there.
Yes.
He doesn't have...
It's still Carolina.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Hubert doesn't have what you call electric charisma.
Right.
But he is staunch in his belief of... He will be able to recruit the moms. I promise you. If he goes into to the living room, he will recruit the mothers. They'll know that their son is about to be in the best hands.
Yeah, well, Skip, Carolina's been down the last 2 years. They would have missed the tournament 2 years ago had COVID not canceled it. And then this year, they were the 8th seed, got bounced in the first round. This is not what Carolina, this is not the expectations of Carolina. Just like Kansas, I mean, Duke didn't even make the tournament. So both teams are going to be looking to get back into it. But like you said, back into the contention again. Yeah. But I like this Hubert Davis hire. They kept it in the family. When Coach Smith retired, he pat Bill Guthrie, who's on his staff for 30 years. Yeah. And then I don't know, I think Matt Doherty, I don't know if he was on his staff, but he played, Matt Doherty was on the team that won the national championship. Yeah. And then, you know, but Matt Doherty did a heck of a job recruiting. He just didn't do a great job of coaching them. Yeah. And then they lure Coach Williams back, who was on the staff with Coach Smith when they won the championship in '82, and he did an unbelievable job.
I will bet you Mr. Jordan blessed this. Oh, yeah. Michael Jordan. I bet he blessed this elevation of Hubert to head coach.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. No mercy. Kyrie Irving put the Nets on his back after James Harden left in the first quarter with a tight hamstring after missing the past 2 games with the same injury. Kyrie dropped 40 points, leading Brooklyn to a 114-112 win over the Knicks. So, Shannon, how impressive was Kyrie's 40 last night?
Very impressive. They needed all 40 of them. My question is, Skip, why was James Harden even out there? You have time on your side. The one thing that can derail this is give him the same courtesy that you gave Kevin Durant. Let him rest this thing. Let Kyrie take it. Seeding doesn't matter with this team. But Skip, Kyrie was spectacular, and Jeff Green came up big. I like Jeff Green. You both like Jeff Green.
Love him.
But Kyrie is Kyrie, Skip. I mean, what do you want me to say? I mean, his handle is impeccable. The way he can get to the rim and finish with either hand is second to none.
James wanted to win MVP, so he tried to hang on to it.
He just
lasted 4 minutes, okay? So in this year's NBA, you better be careful if you become the NBA front runner, because you are done. You are going to get hurt. But I sat back watching Kyrie last night, and I thought, Kyrie, James, KD, these are 3 of the most transcendent offensive talents we have ever seen. And on any given night, they even just go solo by themselves and just take games over.
And give you 50.
Yeah, and it's just unbelievable, the firepower. Kyrie was special last night.
He was special.
They could not guard him.
That 3, I mean, he pulled up with a 3. The game was tied. He pulled up with a 3. His handles, like I said, they needed everything. But I think what put him over the top was Jeff Green, because Jeff Green hit some big shots, a couple of and ones. But, Skip, I would not have rushed James Harden. I understand James wants to win the MVP, but he cost by going out here and play. Probably. He sits himself back further. He's got to miss some time now. And now, guess what? The guy out in Denver, nobody's really talking about, that's been we talk about right below the radar, Skip?
The tortoise.
Yeah.
He's the tortoise.
He's right below the radar when you can't pick him up. And he just popped his head up like a submarine. You can't pick him up. till he pops above the surface.
Well, maybe
there it is.
Maybe it's time for Kawhi to start making a little MVP noise. I don't know. He just might. So, last quick point on Kyrie last night.
Yes.
We talked about how strong Baylor was at those football bodies.
Yeah.
Listen, Kyrie Irving is strong.
And he thin, but Skip,
he is powerful.
The way he can
taking
finish,
people to the hole, they just couldn't keep him from the rim.
The way he can finish amongst the trees, second to none. He was special last night. Very
we'll
special.
give him that. Great stuff today, guys. That is it for Undisputed. We're back at the same time tomorrow morning. The Herd is on right now. Have a great day.